Hi everyone, hope you're doing well out there. Today on Monday we're going to talk about some of the latest filings that came out from some of the super investors and look at some stocks that they have been buying and talk about if it's potentially a good idea to be buying this stock or if these stocks they're buying just don't make sense. So we're going to take a look at these three legendary investors and look at some of the new stocks they're buying. So I hope you enjoy it. Before we do, just a quick shout out from today's sponsor. Kraken currently offers 350 different types of cryptocurrencies including Bitcoin. It has a very easy to use interface and you can also use Kraken on your mobile phone and the web browser. Kraken currently has 15 million clients and is available in 190 countries. Their app is currently rated 4.7 stars on the App Store, and also Kraken received the award for Finder's Best Crypto Platform award last year. It's also rated 4 stars by Forbes, and Kraken currently gives its users 24 hours, 7 days a week support on its platform. If you do want some extra features, you can go get Kraken Pro, which gives you advanced features like detailed charting, and as well on Kraken you're able to buy cryptocurrencies from $10. If you do want to join, there'll be a pinned comment in the comment section, and also there'll be a link in the description of this video. All the content has been prepared by Kraken, and thank you so much for Kraken for sponsoring today's video. Let's start at number one. Number one, we're going to start with Pershing Square Capital Holdings, or Bill Ackman. We're going to look at Bill Ackman, who has a fantastic track record in the stock market, and look at some of his latest filings and some of the stocks that he's been buying. We still have Uber, the number one holding. What a buy that was, by the way. Up significantly since he bought Uber. A little bit of an increase in Brookfield. The big one that everyone's been talking about, though, is the addition of Amazon. Great addition. You know what? I think I should have potentially added Amazon on the latest drop of earnings. And also, there's been a lot of talk about a significant increase in the Google position by 20%. So you start thinking that, oh, you know, you hear so often like the Mag 7 is so incredible value, and you're looking at this and thinking, actually, you know, some of these big tech, and I did this point on the Patreon on the private group a couple of weeks ago. I said, if you actually start looking at the valuation of some of these big techs, and you realize, okay, the revenue is growing at like 10% a year, but this AI and the efficiencies they're getting, some of these Mag 7 are growing like profit at like 20%, EPS at 20%, and with the share buybacks on top. So all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, 10% the valuation is pretty stretched. But then all of a sudden you start realizing actually the profit though is growing 20%. And if you start running the profit growing at 20% a year and you look at some of the valuations that they're at, you're like, hold on. Some of these are actually not looking too bad value. An example for that is like Google. I mean, Google at the moment is like 20 times earnings, which I think is already incredibly cheap for Google. You know, I expect Google to be about the market average valuation, which at the moment the S&P is like 27 times earnings. So I'd expect Google to be like 27 times earnings right now. But the thing as well is like it's already undervalued compared to the market. And then you realize that Google's growing like profit at like 20-30% a year. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, it's only 20 times earnings, but when you're growing at 30% profit a year, that P ratio is dropping dramatically, especially with the beats they do on the EPS as well when they report earnings. And you realize that all of a sudden that quickly goes to 17-fold times earnings, 14-fold times earnings. And like, well, if this should be 27 times earnings, you realize that Google's starting to very quickly look like it could double up in the next 2 or 3 years. So I think like some of these Mag 7s have been talked about as being quite expensive, but actually when you start looking at some of them, they're not too bad value. And I'd argue the case that especially Amazon and Google are two of the ones that look at good value at the moment. So you get big weightings as well, 9% weighting and 6% weighting. So I definitely think those are pretty decent buys by Bill Ackman. So yeah, I actually rate some of these buys. Moving on to this guy. Does this guy need any introduction? The greatest investor of all time, Warren Buffett. Berkshire Hathaway, they have been actively buying a couple of things at the moment. Still got Apple, that's a Google, Apple at the 22% weighting, although they did trim the position a little bit once again. I don't blame them, to be fair, although Google's numbers at the moment have been actually ridiculously good, to be fair, at the moment, so credit to them. So looking at Warren Buffett, the big talk, I'm sure you saw it, the big talk was United Health Group came into the portfolio. Now it is a relatively smaller position at 0.6%, and as always, people talk, is it Warren Buffett buying this, or is it what's the other two guys? Is it Ted and Todd, or is that the names? Is that them buying it because it's such a smaller position? Anyway, as soon as you have the Berkshire Hathaway name buying it, obviously, you know, there's a lot of talk. And Big jump for United Health. It let them have a bit of a rally up, as you can see here. Had a bit of a bounce up in United Health since the news of Berkshire Hathaway coming in and buying the stock. Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm really surprised by Berkshire Hathaway wanting to buy United Health. And I can understand that they probably have a good understanding of the business model. You look at the drop that it's been on, it comes in the category of a 275 billion market cap, which is something that Berkshire Hathaway would be more interested in, like than a 2 billion market cap or something like that. But with United Health, I just didn't know if there was just so much drama with it that it would be something that Berkshire Hathaway would be like, we don't need to get involved in that. I don't know, when you look at someone like United Health, how much overhang is going to, taint United Health for a longer term. You look at the kind of knock-on effect to something similar that completely disrupted the company like Boeing. Boeing has been suffering for the last 5 years because of something that happened 5 years ago. Eventually, it has started turning around, but you've had to be quite patient for 5 years here. With United Health, I look at all the kind of, especially like the investigation from the DOJ about frauding, the claims of being fraudulent. That's one of the big red flags that you could ever get. And the fact that Berkshire Hathaway have gone in and thought, we're going in for it. I'm really surprised at the moment that's been the case, because that could be something that really serious. That's what's putting me off buying something like United Health. And this is the kind of hedge fund that sold a lot of airline stocks because they felt like they're going to be disrupted for the next 5-10 years, and they all bounced back in 2 years. It's the same Berkshire Hathaway that didn't want to buy the likes of Meta, Netflix in 2022, and the stocks went on to 5x from that point of view. I don't get it. If I'm being honest with you, I don't get it. I thought this would be way out where Warren Buffett would be willing to go, I'm going to buy that. But he has, and I say, what talk will be like, is it actually Warren Buffett that did call for the buy on this one? But yeah, good for United Health to have such a good backer there, and probably a sign that, these guys are doing major DD on it. So probably a sign of positive news for United Health. But from what I can see, I personally avoid it just because I'm seeing so many red flags there. But yeah, Berkshire Hathaway have been buying United Health there. Going down the rest of the portfolio, nothing too major to point out. Big increase on Pool Corp, big increase on Linar Corporation as well. But nothing too much that we personally talk about on here on the stock market channel. So yeah, that was the big talk about. And then moving to the last one, which is, I've not got a photo of Michael Burry. I'm a little bit disappointed by that. We'll have to use that little icon there. Michael Burry, sure you've seen it. He was the big name on the 2008 collapse, called it very early. Don't know if you've ever seen the film The Big Short, but yeah. Kraken stock market film if you want something to watch over the next week. Relatively smaller position. You'll be able to see the difference between like Michael Burry compared to like Bill Ackman and Berkshire Hathaway. You look at something like a Bill Ackman and look at some of the stocks that he's been holding and some of the gains that he's had on some of these positions, like AAA up 400+%. And if you look at someone like a Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, some of his holdings as well. You look at the likes of Apple. His Apple position's up a significant amount. What's his Apple position currently up at the moment? 485%. So yeah, up a significant amount on Apple. But Michael Burry, I always laugh because he's in and out of positions like crazy. And maybe from a long-term point of view, maybe not as good to kind of say like it's a significant signal, because you see some things come in the portfolio, next second it's out of the portfolio. But I mean, he's still holding Estee Lauder, which I'm surprised by. But that's actually been on a bit of a rally, and I'm surprised because I looked at the other earnings the other day and I thought they're absolutely terrible. But has bought a stake in United Health Group as well. So some of these big investors coming into this one. Bought a stake in Mercado Libre as well, which was interesting, to be fair, on the current dip that it's on. Absolutely cracking company, one of my favourite companies. But the one that he bought in that got me a little bit interested is he has actually bought into Lululemon with a 21% weighting. So this is a bigger position than either Mercado Libre or United Health by double the size. And yeah, like I said, sometimes he buys things and then next thing he's out of it. So I don't know what his kind of game plan is with Lululemon, how long he's going to hold it for. But, you know, Lululemon has been absolutely whacked recently. You can see here from about January time, stock's fallen about 46%. I bought Lululemon last year and the stock went on to rally, and I sold mine out for a good profit, but it's gone back to decline and declined even more from when I bought it last time. With Lululemon, I've got to say, like at the moment, I think it's like 13 times earnings. I think on a forward P, it might be even slightly less than that. I'm just going to have a quick look here. So have we got a forward P here? No, it's about the same. So EPS must be staying a bit stagnant for a while. But yeah, I mean, overall, like 13 times forward earnings, the company's still expected to grow 6% this year. Yeah, EPS to stay a bit more stagnant, maybe a bit of the tariff impacts coming in there. But next year, EPS expected to go up slightly. So yeah, actually, if we use next year's numbers, actually, I bet it's a bit more towards 11 times earnings. Same again, 6% growth next year. You do look and you think 6% growth for this valuation, like a brand like Lululemon, it's not too bad. The only problem that puts me off buying someone like Lululemon at the moment is that I've recently bought another apparel company, which is VF Corp, and having two apparel companies probably would make me a bit too nervous. So, and both would be like a kind of a turnaround kind of stock. So that would make me a little bit nervous about adding Lululemon in now. The other issue that I have with Lululemon at the moment is if we just go on Seeking Alpha, and by the way, if you do want to join Seeking Alpha, I've got a link in the description. If we go on the latest earnings, the company grew like 7%, as you can see here, but they guided for like 6% growth, I think. And then the earnings before, I think they were growing a bit faster, yet 12% growth. And then I think that was a bit more of a busy period for them, though. I think that was coming off like the Christmas period, so it would be a bit stronger. And then previously 9% growth. And then if we go for another quarter before that, 7% growth. So the thing is the growth seems to be like slowing down more and more, which is the only thing that's making me a bit nervous. Like you would probably want a bit of stabilization and then accelerating. A bit more, showing that, you know, this isn't just, you know, Lululemon is in a position where like they're losing market share now. That's the only thing that I'd want to have a little bit more confidence with Lululemon. They do a couple of teen surveys, and that would be actually quite interesting if it's losing its popularity with teens as well. So yeah, with Lululemon, I can see why he's buying. It's got me tempted as well, to be honest with you. You know, at some point, Lululemon, it's just fallen off. I mean, from when you're talking a year ago, it was a, you know, $412 stock. So, and even nearly a $500 stock 2 years ago, which is just incredible. So yeah, I am on the fence about Lululemon. If I didn't have VF Corp, I might be tempted to go in here and buy it. Yeah. I'm watching it. This is one of the stocks that is quite high up on my watch list. So yeah, I'm watching that one, and I don't know what, like I said, you know, with it being Michael Burry, I don't know what his game plan is. I don't know if he's kind of you know, wanting to hold this for longer term. I thought he's one of his, you know, next time there'll be no filing, he'll be completely out of it. We'll see. But yeah. That's one that I'm personally watching as well. So I hope you enjoyed it. Something a little bit different today. Just talk about other investors and some other stocks that they're buying. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Thanks for watching, and see you tomorrow.